In our comparative study, we sought to explore an industry that would be familiar to us all, the barbershop. We actively avoided fancy salons and had little interest for the commoditized, supercuts type places. We instead sought out the most stereotypical barbershops we could find. Our study took us to Phil's Hairstyles on Wall Street, New Haven, and to Peluqueria Francesa in Santiago. This motive for this exercise was to identify the similarities and differences between a small, everyday family business in both America and in Chile, and to see what role, if any, globalization has played in disrupting this traditional industry. Barbershops have a long, curious history in the US and the rest of the world. Barbers have been around for centuries, initially filling double duties as both surgeons and dentists and barbers. The red and white pole, in fact, that we universally associate with the barbershop was initially used to signify these two roles, red implying the surgery and white implying the haircutting. Over time, barbershops in America blossomed into an unofficial gathering place for men in a community. They came for a haircut or shave and stayed for the conversation. They are still depicted in this way in film and media, and our goal at Phil's was to determine if there remains any of this old world charm in the American barbershop of today. As we enter the 21st century, big business has impacted barbershop in much the same way that they've impacted industries from booksellers to family-owned stores. Talking with the people that still work at Phil's, it seems that barbershops in America have been impacted in similar ways. They've historically filled two core competencies. One is a cheap family environment, and the other is that friendly environment, that old school charm that we spoke of earlier. Unfortunately, these days, large national brands such as Supercuts have successfully undercut their prices to take away from some low price advantage. The barbers at Phil confirmed these theories and showed a little frustration about the fact that their business hasn't really been what it used to be. Outside the competition issue, those at Phil cite a long tradition and a captive market as the primary drivers to their continued success in New Haven. The shop retains its old world feel, and they believe this highlights their competitiveness in the market. They still build their business on strong customer relationships and word of mouth, emphasized by their distinct lack of advertising, and particularly emphasized by the number of classmates who use their services. Weekends remain their busiest days of the week. In Santiago, we had the privilege of visiting the oldest barbershop in the country, Peluqueria Francesa, which was established in 1868. That's right, 1868. Two of us also had the opportunity to get our hair cut and shaves from barbers who say they've worked there for 30 plus years, though the wrinkles on their face made them appear to have over 80 years experience apiece. Peluqueria Francesa also uniquely runs a restaurant that adjoins the barbershop. That new business, though, is not meant to take away from any of the traditionalness of the barbershop. As was blatantly obvious when we got there, they really rely on the tradition of what the barbershop scene used to look like, from the tools they use to the signs on the wall. The advantage of this restaurant, however, is that they have an extra draw to bring new customers in. On Sundays especially, they see a lot of men going to eat breakfast with their friends and then following it up with a haircut or a shave at the barbershop. From our walk to the barbershop and from speaking with the barbers there, it's pretty obvious that there's very little direct competition with Peluqueria Francesa in the general vicinity. Advertising is also very limited, as we had confirmed again with the barbers, the marketing is largely focused on word of mouth. According to the manager, the business remains steady, very busy on weekends, weekdays are somewhat more sporadic. During the hour and a half we visited, there were only 2 other customers and 3 barbers, which implies significant downtime. Though the manager didn't mention it, we did hear rumors from other sources that the barbershop faces significant financial difficulties, and after nearly 150 years of service, may be forced to close in the near future. Surprisingly, the cost of shaves and haircuts was actually relatively similar as compared with Phil's. It cost about $10 for a shave and about $15 for a haircut. Similar too to Phil's, the barbers at Peluqueria Francesa are independent contractors with pay based primarily on commissions. As far as quality goes, our team received 1 haircut and 2 shaves, and both would have been more than satisfactory in the US. While they had considerably older equipment in the Santiago shop, things still appeared relatively sanitary. One interesting thing that we couldn't help but noting was that Peluqueria Francesa exemplifies the old world, traditional style barbershop that is becoming very trendy in the US. Places have recently opened in the likes of New York, San Francisco, etc. that tried to replicate the Peluqueria Francesa style as much as possible. Large differences, however, are in their clientele and cost. The U.S. shops typically cater to high-end consumers and charge considerably more for similar service. Also different is the fact that the U.S. shops, because of their new age feel, are using a lot younger barbers and lose some of that old world touch that you get by having your hair cut and your face shaved by someone who appears to be 90 plus years old. In conclusion, while there appear to be several similarities between barbershops in the two locations, the U.S. trend of convenience-based hair salons does seem to be getting footholds in Chile. We believe this trend will likely continue as barbershops are surviving based largely on institutional trends. Customers there also seem to seek efficiency over friendliness, and there is likely room in the market for a big, cheap, efficient salon to capture some of this market. Also, incredibly important to note, it is our belief that the barbers cannot be making very large salaries and are likely working at least in part for a love of the job. Making this even more difficult is, as noted several times, barbers were all very old. As their ages continue to increase, it will likely play some part in the quality and sustainability for the barbershop in Chile. They will be faced with the prospects of bringing in new barbers who don't have the same history, don't have the same tradition, and don't have the loyal customer base, in addition to the fact that those new barbers are likely going to be looking for considerably higher pay. It should be interesting to see what happens to Peluqueria Francesa in the near future, and we can only hope that it will be there the next time we visit Santiago.